What is self-inquiry? Before I tell you what self-inquiry is, I want to tell you its goal. The goal of self-inquiry is a direct and immediate experience of self, pure awareness. The question that we ask ourselves in self-inquiry is, who am I? So self-inquiry, if we call it a method, is a method of contemplation. We sit down and we ask ourselves, who am I? We're not trying to answer the question intellectually or with words. Same thing. What we're trying to do is, in the very moment, observe the thought forms, the thoughts that arise in our mind. As we do this, we should be able to begin to see that thoughts about our identity really is a thought. They are things that appear in front of our awareness. Some people might say inside our awareness. I'm more of a visual person, so I like to think that I experience them in front of my awareness. Each of us, throughout the day, experiences ourselves behaving and acting. If you're like me, sometimes you do things that maybe you don't want to do, like a bad habit. Let's say you're overeating some chips. For me right now, it's dried mangoes. I'm doing an activity, and I'm watching myself do that activity. Part of me is engaged in the activity. The other part is saying, hey man, you've had enough dried mangoes. Don't eat so many. So right there, we can see that there is a split. There is the doer who's engaged in the activity of mind. Then a step behind that is the seer that is observing the activities of the mind. And the seer, we experience it as kind of the wiser, more all-knowing voice in our head. I have a background in education, and a word that I like to use is metacognition. Along a similar thread, when we're engaged in a mental task like learning a new language or trying to solve a difficult math problem, again, there's this split. Part of us is deeply engaged mentally in solving the problem. Then behind that is a deeper awareness that is observing the fact, or telling ourselves, hey, you're understanding or you're not understanding this. So there is like the learning, and then deeper, there is a part of us that is observing the learning. So already, and in each situation, we can see that there's the mind, which is engaged in activity, then just a bit deeper, there is the seer of the mental activity. Self-realization is realizing that you are the seer. You are the deeper consciousness that observes the activities of the mind. The implication of this is that your true identity is the self, the seer. And the seer is outside of the confines of the mind. The true self has no identity. But this isn't nihilistic, because when we realize ourselves as being the self, as being pure awareness, we inherit a fullness of being that is beyond expression. It's beyond expression because expression requires words. It requires thoughts. And these are all little tiny boxes that you can't be put in. So, the way I like to practice self-inquiry is sit down in a quiet place and I close my eyes and I observe my mind. Whatever thoughts might arise, I don't fight them, I just look at them. A phrase I like to use is not this. Because ultimately, when I ask myself, who am I? And my mind gives an answer, or my mind gives a distraction, when I catch it and I see the thought, I say, it's not this. For example, if I ask myself, who am I? And I say a teacher, I say, not this, because maybe for a moment right now I'm teaching. My career is a teacher, but there was plenty of time before that I wasn't a teacher. Even before that, at a very young age, at birth, right? I didn't even know what that word is. So teacher as an identity is really just a temporary state that my mind and body is in sometimes throughout the day. Even as a teacher, I'm not teaching all day. I'm not teaching in my sleep. So again, sitting down, observing the activity of the mind, ask yourself, who am I? You will find that the thoughts that you have, these little moments, clips, or strings of identity, are just thoughts. Sometimes we find more thoughts to be more compelling or infatuating. But really, that's all it is. It's our own interest in them that gives them the pull. Again, the goal of self-inquiry is to have a direct and immediate experience of yourself, which is pure awareness. We're not doing anything right now to invest in a future state. We are observing the mind as it is in this moment. And as we observe the mind in this moment, we align ourselves, so to speak, with the seer. There's the activities of the mind, and then just behind it is the seer of all activities of the mind.